Okay, welcome to base moves. I will be using names for these movements. That is not to say that these moves are proprietary to us. They come from a long lineage of multiple different movement forms. These are just the names that either we were taught or we have put on top of these moves until told otherwise, because we don't know if there's an official name or not. We are going to do a roll and then like a slidey situation. So let's get started with spiral roll. I'm going to do this facing this way so you can see. So just start on your back. You can turn to face the computer for a second. I'm going to start in an X. And from here, I'm going to initiate with my feet. So if I am rolling to my right foot will just sneak under my left. My toes will pull so that I start to get a twist in my spine. And then I'm going to bring my right arm overhead as my left arm comes down to my hip. This is how I'm going to get out of it, but let's just do that first part together. So on your backs, just tuck your right foot under the left shin or calf, and then rotate your hips. You're going to bring the right arm overhead so that your armpit is exposed, left arm down by the hips. And then while I'm here, if you want to turn to face me, my arms are going to swipe the only direction they can. They can't really swipe to the left any further, so my body tells me which way to go. And then I'm going to allow this arm that's near my hips to pull me all the way back onto my back. Let's just talk through that again, but just go ahead and sit up and look at me for a sec. Okay, so I'm trying to create a twist in my spine. I am not trying to keep this locked. So as my hips pull, my arm comes down by my hips, you should feel a pretty large twist in the spine. And then similarly here, I'm not trying to pull the hip up and keep my torso intact. I'm actually trying to imagine that I have a friend here that's going to pull my arm, and I'm trying to leave my body heavy so that it allows the upper part of my spine, the mid part of my spine, see how my hip is still heavy? And then eventually my low back, my hips, and my thighs to unwind. Just give that a go. I'll do this with you, and then we'll try the other side. Soften the knees. Send the right foot through, right arm overhead, swipe the arms to the right, and then allow the right fingers to pull you all the way onto your back. Let's do the other side. I'll talk us through it together. So because I'm rolling to the left, my left toes are going to tuck under my shin. Really allow the spine to twist, leaving the right armpit heavy for as long as possible. And then my left arm will go overhead as the right arm comes down by the hips. Once I'm on my belly, my arms will swipe the only way they can, which is to the left. And then my left fingers are going to peel my body until I finally make it back onto my back. One other little thing I want to touch on, if I can show you my feet, is that my feet stay attached to the floor the whole time, and I'm keeping track of them mentally. Like in my head, feeling the pressure of the feet on the floor means that I can kind of see them in my mind's eye. So just take a look at my feet. If I'm spiraling to the left foot tucks under, my knees have to bend to make that happen. And then here you could choose to keep your toes tucked or you could untuck them, doesn't matter. And then similarly here, I'm forced to soften my knees so that my feet can stay tactile to the floor. Let's move on to our final base move. So for the last movement, it's actually two moves put together. It's a slide and then a 2 feet slide. You're gonna want to go to one side of your space because it travels. So let's just break down each slide separately for a second, then we'll put them together. I'm gonna assume that you're at least kind of familiar with what we just call a slide. Looks like this. But I will just talk through the most basic pointers. So I'm reaching far if I have space. I am then moving my hips to my foot, and then I'm gonna safely go over this, in this instance it's my right foot, as this back leg swoops around. And then I'm going to just do it on the other side for you to see. I'm reaching far, my hips are going towards my foot, and then I'm gonna lift in my core to move safely up and over that foot. So that's slide, and then we're going to add one other slide onto that slide. It's called 2 feet slide. Why? Because both feet become planted underneath you. So we have one slide, normal. Then I'm gonna get both of my feet under my pelvis, and you could go to standing all the way, or you could just go back into your slide, 2 feet slide. In class, we tend to string these together, slide, 2 feet slide, slide, 2 feet slide. If you have space where you are, you could try that. Some things that I'm thinking about. In slide, I'm imagining my pelvis really moving pretty horizontally. But then in 2 feet slide, I have to get my hips a bit higher to have room for my feet to come up underneath me. So watch the pathway of my hips once, and then we'll try it. This moves kind of transversely, and then they come a bit higher to get my feet under me. One other thing that I'm thinking about for 2 feet slide is that I have to keep the weight. So say I just on my slide, I want to really pour a ton of weight into my anchors. So in this instance, it's going to be this hand and this foot. So rather than trying to almost like immediately center my weight, I'm trying to imagine that as I'm sliding over these anchors, I'm actually energizing almost diagonally. So there's a moment where pretty much all of my weight are in these 2 limbs. Then I can soften my hips through the center. Let's try slide, 2 feet slide, one more time on each side. Slide side, slide side, thinking about those things. So I'm gonna come to the left side of my space. Okay, so I'm gonna take my travel to the right, it's a slide. Lift the hips, pour the weight to the left, 2 feet slide. And let's just go back the other way. If you have the space, keep reaching the hand and the foot far and travel this as much as you can. Here we go. Slide. Pour the head to the right, 2 feet slide. Okay, that's it for base 1.